Hey guys, what's up? It's AD.VideoEditor here, and in this tutorial, well, this is actually the first of a series of tutorials, I'm going to help you go from being a beginner in After Effects to being a pro in After Effects. Now this series is just going to start from pretty basic stuff to working your way up to more advanced effects and getting around After Effects better. Now in this series, I'm not specifically going to be going over any specific thing, too many specific things and how to do some awesome stuff, but more just the general broad term, different effects you can use, how to use effects so that you can learn to use it and make your own things with it. So in this first tutorial, of course, I'm assuming you guys maybe have just got After Effects or you're thinking about it, and this is just going to be a pretty much introduction to After Effects and the workspace and everything. So the first time you open up After Effects, first time you're going to open up After Effects, you're going to see this window right here. And so this is the default workspace. It's the standard workspace. Now the way you can check your workspace is, first off, you see up here in the upper right side, it says workspace, and then my option is standard. If you click on that, you can see all these other different types of workspaces meant for different things. So let's say you're going to do an animation, you hit this animation, and then After Effects sets up the workspace to hopefully aid your experience better. So you have all these different things, let's say effects, right? And if you notice the effects, it put the effects controls panel right here. So when you're working with big effects, it's easier to do. And I'll go through each of the panels in a sec. So I'm going to go back to the standard workspace a second. Okay. And so now let's say you're doing a workspace and you want to change something up. What you can do, you can kind of see little dots in the top left of each tab. So let's say you see right here, if I click on that little section, I can now move it around. So if I move it right on top of the project, the center square of the project tab is shaded purple, so that these tabs will pretty much be right on top of each other and I can rotate back and forth. So you see when I dropped it right on top, it goes project, composition, they're in the same group. But if I want to move it, let's say I put it in the left, it now puts them right next to each other. That's kind of how it was before. It's to the right, it's now to the right of the project. Or let's say I want to take this and put it below the timeline down here. I can just make sure that the shaded section is the bottom one below the timeline, and I drop it, and then it goes right below the timeline. I'm just going to go ahead and bring this back. Okay, and so you can change it around however you want. Now let's say you find a workspace that works for you. So I'm just going to mess with this a little bit. I put that there, maybe move this right there. Okay, so now let's say for whatever reason I really like this workspace. What you can do is go to Window, Workspace, and then hit New Workspace. Now you can name this workspace. I'm just going to name this Custom 1. Hit OK. Now whenever you want to use this workspace, you just go to your workspace and choose Custom 1. So I'm going to go back to Standard a sec. Oops. Right, so I'll just go to a different one, let's say the Effects. Right, now I go Window, Workspace, Custom 1, and it puts us right back there. So I'm just going to go back to the Standard Workspace a sec. And you see this is the same as the Custom 1 because we are in the Standard Workspace and we messed with it. So if you want to go back to the default workspace, you just go back to this workspace setting, and then you hit Reset Standard, and it'll give you a dialog. Are you sure you want to reset it to its original layout? And you hit Yes, and you're back to where you were. Alright, so now real quick, I'm going to talk about the different panels in the workspace. Over here is your project panel. This is where all your footage will be, and this is how you can import footage to your project. So some different ways you can import your footage is by right-clicking it, then hitting Import, and then File. Or you can, what I tend to do is just double-click anywhere in that big area. Then you can find some footage, open it, and now you see it's right here. So the next panel I'm going to go over is the timeline. And the timeline is this big section down here. Now it doesn't look like much right now because you don't have any footage in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put footage in the timeline. Now, so you can either just take your footage and drag it in here, and by doing this, it automatically makes a composition. So everything is going to be within these compositions, or like mini projects in your overall big project. So like a composition, I can have like many different compositions in my project. So if I just drag my footage down here, it makes a composition that's just the same title as the footage because it's just the footage in here. I'm going to undo that real quick. And another way you can add a composition is to right click in this empty area, hit new composition, and now you have this composition setting dialog. Here you can change the name of this comp. I'm going to leave it as comp 1. You can change the preset, so you can just make it whatever settings you want, 1080p, 720p, and whatever. Pixel aspect ratio, now you can switch that up. I tend to just keep it at square pixels. Frame rate, you can change that. I normally have it at 29.97. And then you can change the duration, and you can also set a background color. And hit OK. And then that's that. And then just the last quick way to add a composition is if you look at the bottom of your project tab, the rightmost icon, if you hover over it, it says create a new composition. So if you click that, you get the same dialog and you can create a composition. So once you have a composition, the comp is automatically in the timeline. And you see, if I were to make a bunch of different compositions, right, all the compositions are right here in my project tab. Then also, if you look down at the timeline, you can see you can quickly switch between all of your different compositions. So if I go to, let's say, comp 1, then I can drag my footage into comp 1. And now you can see it looks a little bit more like a timeline. So with this, if let's say you want to zoom in a little bit, you can hit the slider and just zoom in or zoom out. Or you can take this thing up here, this slider up here, and you can drag it to meet your needs. And then also when you have footage in the timeline, you have these options on the leftmost side here. So you can probably figure out what these things are pretty easily. The eye icon is just like making it visible or not. The speaker icon is just muting it or not. Then this circle is solo. So let's say you have a bunch of different footage in this composition and you just want to isolate one. You just hit the solo, and then that'll be the only thing that shows. Or you can also lock it so you don't accidentally make any changes to it. So another option you have in the timeline is to change the mode. And the mode, so you can set it to normal, dissolve, dancing, dissolve. You have all these options, and that just pretty much sets it so you can almost like see the layer below it. If it's like, you can see the layer below it, and so the top one becomes almost transparent. So for example, if I find something else, let's say right here, I'm going to put this below my top one. Then I'm going to set this to screen. And then suddenly all the dark parts of the top one became transparent, and I can see right through it to my layer below. And then also, you can parent. You have a parent option, so you can quickly parent one layer to another layer if you make changes to another layer that you want to automatically be applied to the next layer. Alright, and lastly, I'm just going to show you how to render out footage. So all you have to do is go to the Composition tab up top, hit that, and then hit Add to Render Queue. And here you have a bunch of different options, and I'm not going to go over every one because I already have a tutorial. I'll put a link in the description. I'll have it pop up right up on the screen for you. And so if you want to watch that tutorial on some great render settings, but pretty much you just hear a bunch of settings so you can change it to however you like. And then if you hit the name over here, you can change the folder it's saved to and the name that it's going to be saved as. Alright guys, well hopefully you have a little bit better feel of After Effects right now with some windows and tabs and some basic stuff. In my next tutorial, we'll go over some more advanced stuff, such as like modifying the footage, so just transforming stuff like the position, scale, rotation, opacity, and stuff like that. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you have any questions that you want to ask, please email me at ad.videoeditor@gmail.com. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.